Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Family Life Builders TV, where we're building homes and transforming society. My name is Tosin Opelua, and I have in the studio with me today my beautiful sister, Aima Egbalakin. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Tosin. How are you doing?
I'm good. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
So, yeah, you've been here once and you gave us your best. So I know today will not be an exception. So please, I need you to introduce yourself to the people this time around.
Okay, my name is Aima Egbalakin. I am of Nigerian origin. I currently live in the United States with my family. I am a family life practitioner. What that means is I work as a coach with couples and parents just to, again, change paradigms and then help establish new effective patterns in families. And the ultimate goal is to create a better family so that we can create a better world out there. So I'm glad to be here today, working again and just sitting on Tosin's couch and having to discuss this topic, which is it's very, very dear to my heart. So again, thank you, Tosin, for having me.
Thank you so much. So I'm really glad that you are here. And yeah, it's an honor. So I really appreciate you. I don't know where to start because we have so much to talk about.
I know. Let's just start from anywhere. I don't think a lot of things have changed, so we don't have to start from anywhere. I'm sure we'll take it here. Yeah.
Okay, so let's start this way.
Okay.
It looks like we are social workers.
Oh yes, I forgot to mention that part. Yes, I'm a social worker, and that's one of the connections that I have with Tosin. Yes, we are social workers. Yeah.
And I remember that when we were there's one of this class that I've taken. I don't know if you've taken that class, human behavior in social environments.
Yes, I have.
And I don't know, the professor who took the class was actually one of my favorite professors, Sarah Sander.
Okay.
Sarah took that class. She's a doctor.
Okay.
And Sarah said something, when we had the class, and she said, everything that we see today going wrong in the society, at the meso level, it's because something is wrong at the micro level.
Micro, yes.
So what makes the difference? What's really the reason? What is taking away the values? What is taking everything away from the micro level? And we are seeing the results at the meso level out there.
Okay, so I completely agree with that statement. And like one of the reasons why I think one of my driving forces in social work and the reason why I got in here is something in line with with the question you just asked. So I always say that I always use that line where I say that my goal is to help us build stronger families so that we can have a better society at large. And I think it just goes a long way to tell us that, see, if things are wrong or things are not properly handled at that, like in our language, to say the micro place, then we'll see it out there. And a lot of it, and a lot is going on in the world right now. So it's like we're seeing it. We're seeing the results everywhere. And when we go back to ask questions, then it takes us back home to say, okay, what exactly is happening here? I think to answer your question, I think that one of the things that's happening at the micro level is there is a lot of disconnect. There is a lot of disconnect in families, which is, which if we look at it deeply, is just, very sad. However, I'll be quick to say that the reason for that disconnect also would vary maybe from home to home culture to culture, exposure to exposure, and there are a lot of pieces. If we were to start piecing, everything and peeling the layers one by one, there are lots of things that are in there. But ultimately, the bottom line is there is a disconnect at that level. But if we start to have communications where we, one, identify what those things are, then maybe hopefully we can come up with solutions for better outcomes.
Thank you so much. One of the things that I've also seen was that um, when parents don't have the same value, there's a disconnect, like you said.
Yes.
How can parents start aligning their values so much that they will be speaking the same language and then we'll be able to train our children with one voice? How can parents start reconnecting? Because I think it's going to start from parents.
Yes, yes, I agree. So I think unlike maybe how things were done in the past, parenting is now more active, right? And it's looking like you can almost tell maybe when a child is being raised by what I would call in quotes lazy parents, right? So however, to how the parents start to maybe connect so that they would have one voice, how they can align their values, my response for that will be just one thing, and that is communication. Now, communication is a big deal. A lot of us just feel like it's just, communication. What's communication? Talking to each other. What a lot of parents are doing is they're talking, but they are not communicating. Those two things are different. When you talk, you just give information. But when you communicate, there's on the element of understanding is what makes it different from just talking to somebody. So when I talk to you and I give you an information, okay, do this, do this, do this, do that, that's talking. But when I come to you to say, oh, Tosi, I need you to help me do A, B, C, D, I need to ask for clarification. Do you understand that? It's only at the point where you are able to say to me, oh, I understand. Or maybe if you do not fully understand, to ask questions to clarify. Only then would we say that, can we successfully say that communication has taken place? So you find out that with parents, it's just talking and no communication. Now, for most couples who grew up in different, we grew up in different homes, they have different values. It's pretty much like one person has their own values and this other person grew up with his or her own values as well. Now, in coming together, we shouldn't make the assumption that, my wife should understand where I'm coming from, or my husband should understand what I'm trying to say. We both need to sit down and say, this is our own family. These are the children that we're raising. What values do you hold dear? What values do I hold dear? Then how can both of us come together to, form our own and communicate them to the children? So it's essentially communicating. A lot of people, it's funny because even up till today, this morning, I was talking to a particular married woman and she said, the only time we talk is when we talk about our children. So that's what you see, like in a lot of marriages where the only time they actually even talk or have anything together is when about the children. When we forget about ourselves, when we forget about the core of why we're together, then problems will start to surface. So I think everything will be hinged on communication. Let's go back to the place of communicating with each other rather than just talking to each other.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, so that means if we don't communicate at the same frequency,
Mm-hmm.
we will start feeling mine is superior to yours,
Exactly.
and that will create a lot of problems. So
Yes.
we really need to align our communication. Hmm.
Yes.
I think
Yes.
we might have to find another day to talk about communication.
It is a big deal. We should do that. Yeah.
It's a big deal. I think
Yes.
we need to, because
Yes.
communication alone. is if we can settle the space of communication in
Mm-hmm.
relationship, we can
Mm-hmm.
settle every other thing in that
Everything.
relationship.
Yes. So one of my favorite sayings is when I talk to people is to say that is to remind us that communication is the blood of any relationship. And if
Hmm.
you look at it as humans, the blood, I mean, signifies life. Without the blood, I wonder how even our bodies can function.
Hmm.
Right? So without communication, relationships, whether it is friendship, whether it is marriage, whether it is parenting, whatever kind of relationship will not work if we do not have our communication, in place, if it is not solid enough to hold us. And going back to that point that you made of, oh, not one not seeing the other as superior, when we're in a relationship, we should also remember that we are team players. We're not competitors. Because when you start seeing yourself as competitors, that's when you now start thinking, oh, my ideas are better than Tosin's ideas. Or, and most times you find out that one is not necessarily better than the other. They may be different, but not necessarily better. So communication, if we can get that right, like you said, a lot, if not all the problems will be solved. Yeah.
Hmm. Thank you so much.
Mm.
Now, let's dive into uh this age. Maybe we can talk about teens later. Let's
Okay.
look at children generally.
Okay.
They have some attitude, and there are some of them that when you see some characters and attitude that they display is beyond their age.
Okay.
So because even I don't know if you were the one I was telling that my 9-year-old was doing like this. I'm like, are you for real? So then I remind him that look, this thing that you are doing is called responsibility. So you better enjoy your childhood,
uh,
because if these things start coming out, you will pay bills. So
That's funny.
and like I just want them to enjoy their life as much as I want them to understand reality.
Right.
Now, so what are the norms for those ages 0 to 12? I'm just
Okay.
going to give you time to break it down. What are the
Okay.
norms? What are the ones that we can say, no, this one is not okay,
Mm-hmm.
this one is okay?
Okay. So that's a very, I feel like the age range is wide. It's really wide.
Okay.
And because and the reason why I say that is because I've done sessions on the different age ranges to highlight what the norms are for each age ranges. I'll try to break it down because I think I had like 30 to 45-minute sessions on each one, and they're a lot. So, but
Then I
I'll
can attach it. You can give me the link. I'll put it under this video when I
okay.
upload it.
Okay, I think I'll do that. So I'm right now, I think I stopped at the preteen years. And I was, when you asked me to speak on here, I was like, okay, you need to complete this series because I have other parents who are also asking me. So thank you for gingering me in that direction. I hope to do it before school starts and we get busy again. So, but for ages, let me take them in bits and see if I can just cover them really quick. For ages 0 to 3, some zero, let me say zero. I mean, they're babies anyways. All they do is cry, right? All they do is cry, they eat, they poop, and they sleep, right? But at that time, of course, with what we see is parents, especially maybe moms, because they are the main caregivers that are really stressed out and they're tired, and the cries can be very annoying. Like little kids crying because most times it's either the mom is breastfeeding or she's just caring round the clock for this child who is helpless anyways. And the only way they know to communicate is by crying. And so pretty much that's for them. They cry and cry and cry. But for that age, maybe even up until the time when these kids are, say, 2 years old, they cry a lot. Some do not have the words yet to be able to communicate what they want and everything. But I think I'd just like to say that for that age, the crying is actually a need, is an expression of a need, and not necessarily about them being spoiled or, just there. They are needy. Kids at that age, I think one thing that we can maybe categorize them by is needy. They are just very needy and very dependent on parents or their caregivers for care. So that's for that age. By the time kids are getting into, say, between 1 and 3, let me say 2 and 3, 0 to 1, very needy, cry all the time. They cry unreasonably, very annoying, especially when they're crying and all that. So between ages 2 to 3, you'll start seeing maybe attitude. Attitude starts to come up. I think those are the years that are categorized by, first words could be no. You say, okay, sit down there. They tell you no. And then as they move to 3, it becomes why. Sit down there, why? And for parents, especially maybe those who are not very conversant with those behaviors, we start to think, maybe especially some of us who have African descent, we start to think, he's questioning me. Can you imagine this child questioning me? But it's really not questioning. It's just what is normal for that child at that age. So for the series, and I'm going to send you the link because I think it would help parents to understand a lot. I tagged it expected behaviors versus bad behaviors. So and the reason why I did that is because I realized that for parents, when the kids start to do things that we do not expect them to do, we're very quick to target bad behavior. But when we understand that for this particular child at this age, it is normal for them to be this way, then maybe we would relax a little bit, knowing that it is normal for you to take a 3-year-old child on a walk and it's raining or it just rained and they see a puddle. What they want to do, what comes to that child's mind as a 3-4-year-old is to jump in the puddle, because for them it's interpreted differently. It's an opportunity to explore. It's an opportunity to just play, which is what they want to do at that age. But for us parents, we're thinking, if that child jumps into the water, I'll have to deal with, okay, maybe they would splash water on me. They will spread germs. The clothes will be dirty. I'll be the one to go and suffer myself to do laundry. And then we think about it in those ways. The children do not even see things like that at all. They do not even understand it that way at all. So for that age, they're also very exploratory. Everything is seen as maybe a toy, a gadget. They want to explore. They pick this up rather than just, if I pick this up, this is a stapler. I know to just use it to staple things together. If a child that age picks this up, they want to open it, they want to turn it inside out, they want to turn it upside down, they want to bring out and already the parent is starting to get frustrated. Before now, I was that parent as well, full disclosure. Why can't you just leave my stapler? Why can't you just use it for what you want to use it for? But for them, those are learning moments for them. They want to figure out how the paint sits in this cage right here. They want to figure out how these paints that are all stuck together will now come out as one, holding pieces of paper together. So if we understand that about children, we'll be a little bit more relaxed to say, okay, maybe this child is just trying to learn and explore and stuff like that. Now, as they grow older, they start to go to school. We're talking school now, like school age now, ages 5, 6, which is typically when they start school, like in the US where we are, and they start to go to school. Their sense of independence, which already they've even started building by age 3. children start building a sense of independence by age 3. That's the age where you say, oh, let me help you put your shoes on. They go, oh, no. I mean, for kids here, they'll tell you, oh, no, never mind, mommy. I got it.
Okay.
3. And you're like, this child is just 3 years old. First, the vocabulary, I got it. And then maybe the attitude, I got it. No, 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 no. So maybe some form of aggression. And you're like, what is wrong with this child? And then maybe the most frustrating part, of course, is when they put on those shoes, they end up putting on the shoes the wrong way. And you're like, oh goodness, but I told you that you should let me put the shoes on. I have a meeting to attend. They don't understand that. For them, that's how they explore. So I look at my 3-year-old daughter, and maybe because of the knowledge that I'd acquired over time, it was a little bit easy to deal with that. Because every single thing, I got it. Never mind, mommy. I got it. Never mind, daddy. And it was sometimes very frustrating, maybe depending on if you have meetings to go to or you have to take the siblings somewhere and you are racing against time. We have to be there by 10 o'clock and this is 9:30. And one child is telling you, I got
I
it.
got
And
it.
then they end up putting on the shoes the wrong way. Then you as the mom, you're thinking, oh no, when we show up, everybody's going to be thinking that I'm an irresponsible mom. How can you, and stuff like that. You pick out clothes for them. They do not want to wear those clothes. They have particular clothes that they want to put on, and it starts at age 3. So the level of independence actually starts at that age. And as they grow older, it gets more intense. I don't want to use the word worse. It gets more intense. So 4, 5, and they go up off to, then preschool, and they go off to real school, and then it's just a different ball game altogether. At this age, they're like mini adults that you're dealing with, and they've been exposed, and now they're exposed to other kids, right? So the level of independence also is higher than what it was when it was at 3, when they actually started to display that. They do not want to maybe listen to some of the things that you have to tell them, and they just want to, again, even at that age, they just want to play. They still just want to play. So play is a big deal. Disregard for safety is also, there's no form of, they don't have that heightened sense of safety that we parents have. They want to play in the street. They want to play on the road. They want to ride their bikes anywhere. They want to be with friends. They want to, watch movies all day. If you leave them, they want to play with their computers all day. So those are some of the things. As they get older, specifically to ages, maybe between ages 8 and 12, it starts getting a little bit tougher, maybe for parents too, because at that age they're starting to change physically, and with physical changes come also emotional, maybe imbalance. Their hormones, start to maybe also act up, so you see the attitude more. That's the part where you say, oh, can you go do this for me? Okay. And you find parents saying, come back here. Don't say okay, say okay, And then we parents know the difference between okay, mommy, and okay, and stuff like that. So you see that part of that is not necessarily because, again, they are not well trained or they don't have manners. It could actually just be hormones, acting up, and you don't even know. Sometimes, especially for the girls, they just burst out in tears. They're very sensitive. And you're like, what's happening? Why are you crying? I don't know. And sometimes they just want to be by themselves, pretty much like how teenagers will roll, but you've already started displaying those things bit by bit. I think a huge part of this stage also, especially with, technology, westernization and all that, is they want to watch maybe the kind of programs that they want to watch. So I have a 9-year-old, and I've realized that, sometimes the programs that she wants to watch are what I would call teenage, programs. And, the Barbie, the something. I'm like, so, but sometimes when you watch this, it's like, okay, these are teenagers, like, the things they're talking about. However, and I was just telling someone this yesterday, I have noticed personal research that I have done is that it seems like for kids ages 8 to 12, that age, it seems like media doesn't really have a lot of options for them. on what to watch. They are too young to watch maybe Peppa Pig and stuff like that. They are too, maybe too, no, sorry, they are too old to watch things like Peppa Pig and all. They are too young to watch, like teenage programs and all of that. So I think at that point, it now becomes the work of the parents to maybe just guide on what they watch, or even maybe when they watch some things to bring it back home to explain, oh, well, you saw that, but what do you think about that? And make those learning moments or educational moments for them. In this age brackets as well. And I'm focusing a lot on this age bracket and beyond because that's where people start to deal with like the teenage years and the things that will really come up. They're more vocal. Our kids are more vocal and they also have a lot to think about, especially with the changes in their bodies. And it's especially worse also maybe if they're the first in their, amongst their group of friends to develop maybe, physically as well. They are more, self-conscious, which could lead to low self-esteem, which could lead to, low confidence if that is not well handled. And they also have to deal with puberty as well. Some parents are good with having those conversations before the kids start. Some parents, even themselves, are not there yet. There's shame, there's embarrassment. The kids will also have to deal with the aftermath of all that. Another big thing with this age range is they are very impressionable. So they want to impress their friends. They want to hang out with their friends. They want to be termed cool, right? Oh, they don't want to be the uncool kids, amongst their friends. So those are some of the things that are characterized, that are great characteristics of kids at different ages. Of course, when they become teenagers, it's all of these times, maybe 100. They talk more, they give you their opinions any which way they think it's appropriate. They want to do their own things. They don't even want to listen to adults, advice. They want to do everything. And with the world today where people will say, oh, do you? As long as it makes you happy, just do you. And you find some people say, oh, I just want to do me. I just want to be happy. I just want to, forgetting that the things that make you happy may not necessarily be the things that you want to do. So I think it's just a lot for parents to deal with kids as they grow older. However, if we understand this, the different stages and how they present in the different stages, maybe we can now find a way to work with them so that they don't become what we do not want them to become. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, you've said a lot, and there's so much to pick.
Hmm.
But there's something that comes to mind as you were talking. So there are some of these expected behaviors that shouldn't bother us. But at what point should we be bothered about
Okay.
some of those attitudes? Or what are some of those attitudes that we need to be bothered about
Okay.
and start correcting?
Right. So I need to chip this in really quick. One of the things that I didn't mention, one of the expected behaviors from kids, this would actually starts from birth, but it becomes more pronounced as they grow older, is masturbation, touching themselves. It's normal. It's absolutely normal that kids touch themselves, even girls and boys inclusive at different ages. Now, for that particular one, it becomes a problem if it is a norm. I would say for all of the ones that we would look at, especially the ones that we will look at as problematic, it will become an issue. We need to really start paying attention, or we should be bothered when it becomes a norm. Where, for instance, a boy, we notice, touching, genitals more in boys than in girl children, right? But when the boy goes out and he's touching himself in public, or they start to touch other children, then we should be bothered if that is a norm. If the parent is getting reports, at school from time to time to say, oh, A touched B at school today inappropriately, A touched C, A touched D, then that is becoming a problem and we should pay attention to that. I realize that's a big deal with kids, maybe especially with all that's going on today. Also with attitudes, it would become a problem where maybe like talking back. Talking back is a norm. There's no time where, they tell you to do something, even when the parents are trying to appeal to the child's common sense to say, oh, let's assume the child's name is John or Cecilia. Hi, John, Cecilia, could you help me, do the dishes? Or, maybe you have like a routine and it's his or her turn. And it's like, no, 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 no. And you see that all the time, then we should pay attention. But again, the whole thing should also start from communicating to see what exactly is happening here, taking a closer look to be sure that, okay, there's nothing. As they grow older, within the ages of 8 and 12, the reason why they depend on friends and they want their approval and all is strongly tied to identity, having a sense of identity. Developing a sense of identity is something that needs to be driven from the home. So when that is the norm, the child comes home and every conversation is filled with, oh, my friends, oh, why are you doing this? My friend said I should do this. Oh, why you do this? Everything is about my friend. I want to have this. Oh, why do you want to have it? Because my friend. Then that might be a problem, in the making, and we need to start addressing that, having that communication, and just shining our touch to be sure that, okay, there's nothing more going on here. But when you see that a lot in kids, it shows maybe a misplaced sense of identity. And the problem of a misplaced sense of identity actually hinges a lot on the parents, because children cannot do that by themselves.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so so much. Um, I'm still having echo. I don't know why,
I
but
can't hear it. I'm good with your sound.
all
Yeah.
right. Thank you.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
so there is in our African culture, because they've said it over and over. I've heard it on some debate on shows and all that. Some people were saying we are throwing away African culture,
Mm,
especially people raising kids here,
mm,
or generally people raising kids outside uh, where we came from.
mm,
Now, but one thing I understand is, or that I've seen generally, is children are children.
mm,
And, I've also seen kids who are actually white kids that are very respectful.
mm,
I've seen, African American kids, Indian kids. I've been able to move with friends who has all kinds of, children, black, white, and all that.
right.
And I've seen how they raise these kids
Mm,
wonderfully well.
right.
For me, I don't believe there's a culture that says children should be disrespectful, children should not be lovely.
Mm,
Because two things that I teach my children, in fact, let me just say one thing that I really love that I've been teaching is love. Because I
mm,
just believe that if you love people, I've told them that even if this woman is your maid, if this woman is grandma's maid, you still need to treat her the way you treat grandma. So you
right.
shouldn't talk to her the way you don't talk to grandma. So
Mm,
I made them understand that you need to love people. It
mm-hmm,
doesn't matter what they wear, it doesn't matter how they look, and
right.
that settles it for me.
Mm,
So anytime they are not doing that, I remind them what love is not. So now here's where I'm going. How do we segregate the culture from children learning what they really need to learn?
mm,
Because we all feel like, I think I was telling you about my goddaughter who was saying, this is, I don't know how to eat this. And I appreciate that, and I don't feel the parents did not train her well because she said that.
yeah.
And you know why I think that way? Because for me that I know how to eat everything, it's
Mm-hmm.
because my mother does not have option for me.
Yeah.
That's all she could provide. So I have to
Right.
eat what she has to provide. Then when
Exactly.
it was my kid's turn, my daughter at some point she doesn't eat fish, she doesn't eat meat, she doesn't
Uh-huh.
eat egg.
Uh-huh.
It was only egg she was eating actually. She doesn't eat every other protein. And it becomes a concern for me.
Yeah.
Even when I have it to provide it for her, but she doesn't
Mm.
want.
Mm.
Now she knows how to eat everything because my mom enforced it
Mm.
against her will, but
Mm.
she's eating it. Now,
Mm.
for a child that doesn't do that, that the parent doesn't enforce it,
Mm.
it's still okay.
Right.
So how do we balance that? How can because sometimes the stress some parents are going through is the result of other people's children.
Mm.
So how do we balance that? How do we feel okay with the way we train our children
Mm.
and not bothered about the way another person trained their own
Their
kids?
own children.
And not say negative things, because in some families it's the business of other people's family that they talk about all day. How do
Mm.
we do that?
Mm. Wow, interesting. I feel like you've asked me like maybe 10 questions in one. But you see, the issue of culture, I'm all about the culture. I'm very big on the culture. You know, and I'm still like a work in progress when it comes to how to describe myself. I try to call myself like a cultural coach. I'm still trying to fine tune my title and all in that sense. Maybe by the time I finish school, I'll have it all there. But I'm all for the culture because, again, like I said in my introduction, I was Nigerian raised, right? That's so everything about how I grew up was all Nigerian. And then I relocated to the US. I've lived in the US for, say, about 13 years now, and it's just so different. And, I feel like we can talk about this because um, having grown up in one culture and then raising kids in another culture, it's tough. It's tough, just to say the least, because I feel like it will challenge everything. Now, so the first question, I'm trying to piece the different things, but I'll talk about the first one, which is respect. I think that in order for us to tackle the issue of respect, we first need to define what respect is. Now, from within the confines of my own knowledge about the Nigerian culture and the prevalent culture here will be the Yoruba culture and maybe the Igbo culture, right? And it's interesting because my husband is Yoruba, I am not Yoruba. So my own culture is kind of maybe a little closer to the Igbo culture, and my husband is Yoruba culture, which is very traditional. So where respect, the way respect is shown is very physical, where you have to kneel and the men have to prostrate and stuff like that. That's how respect is defined. When you now move to a place like this where respect is not necessarily physical, but it's pretty much about like what you have in you, how you treat people, then maybe some people will just be confused about what that definition is. So the first thing that I would say really is how do you define respect, right? Oh, you see someone that is trying to say, can you go? I'm in a session. Yes. So, sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
It's a family show, so when children comes in, you just raise them and let them say hi to the people.
Yeah. So one was trying to communicate with me and she had to write it on and put it on my laptop. So I gave her a thumbs up
That's
behind my laptop.
fantastic.
Yeah. So I think it's defining what respect is. And I don't know if this will be appropriate for here, but the longer that I've been exposed to other culture, the more I personally have moved away from respect being just physical, where somebody will come and kneel to me or have to bow to me before I can understand that that person
Mm,
respects me.
mm,
Now, because when you come to kneel to me and you bow to me
mm,
and you do not respect me as a person, you do not treat me the way you would love to be treated. You do not show love to me as a human being. You talk to me anyhow, you treat me anyhow. Then really, what sense does that make of you just coming to kneel to me and to bow to me? And sometimes I feel like, again, because I've been in situations where another way we show respect is by calling somebody auntie, using the prefix auntie, uncle, ma, sa. I've seen a lot of that happen, and then there's still a lot of disrespect in there. You use ma, sa for different people, yet that we still give them a body language that is not really appropriate. Or when they do something, you see some people quickly switch, and you're like, oh, you just referred to me as ma a couple of minutes ago, and then something happens and you're like, I would disrespect you completely. I can be very rude. I can be so when we look at that, I'm like, okay, you know what? I would rather you treat me as you would love to be treated. And that's where love comes in. If you love somebody, you will treat them with respect, right? You will show them, you will treat them the way you want to be treated, right? Versus, you kneeling. I've seen a lot of people who do the kneeling and the bowing, and at the end of the day, there's nothing to it. I think another thing also is, for me, and this is personal, I think some of those things also maybe build walls and barriers between people, where they cannot talk freely with someone or have a good relationship with that person, because again, where we're coming from, the culture of respect is forced on people. You have to call this person auntie because they gave birth to her 1 year before they gave birth to you. Now, when we do that, but I'm looking at you, I'm like, oh, we're in the same age bracket. We can be friends, we can be pals. But because I have to call you or you refer to you a certain way, or use the prefix auntie, uncle for you, I'm already like, oh, this person is high up there. And you know how, again, patriarchy is for us. We grew up in a very patriarchal system where when somebody is maybe older than you or up there, you're expected to kind of show reverence to that person. So you really cannot have, that free flowing relationship with that person. So I think, in as much as we want to preserve our culture, I feel like we also need to get to it. One of the reasons why we're getting the exposure, we're connecting with other communities, other people from other areas, is also to help us to look inwards to be better people. So in talking about our culture, the culture of respect, let's sit down and piece, everything one by one and say, what exactly is it that connotes respect to me? If I tell people, if you come to my home, despite the fact that my husband is Yoruba, I'm from Edo State, we're not raising our kids to kneel, to prostrate to people. Some people will consider that disrespectful, maybe based on their own definition of respect. But when such people now come and they bring their kids into my space, and you see that we actually have a relationship. My kids will not barge into your room just because of something and then they now bow to you or kneel to you to say, we respect you and all that. No. So there are different things. You understand boundaries for this person. You treat this person with love. You talk to them the way you want to be talked to. You show fair play. Fair play. We're playing, despite the fact that we are friends, you know that, okay, this is a no limit. I think those things will go farther than the physical way of showing respect, which was like the only way we were taught to show respect, basically, is the physical bowing and kneeling. Interestingly, in my own culture, even as a Nigerian, bowing and kneeling is not even a big deal. Right. So we call, like, for our parents, like, when, oh, yes, daddy, yes, mommy. That was how I was raised from time immemorial. But for instance, when I got married in my husband's family, you can't say that. It has to be yes, ma, yes, sir, and stuff like that. So I think it's defining what it means to particular people. However, I feel like for us parents in this generation, it is our duty to help our children to balance that whole act versus the real thing, what respect should mean to a person when it comes to here versus just the physical way of showing respect. I don't know if that
You
has
did
answered that. Yeah.
a great
Yeah. Yeah. So to
justice.
the other one about how do we build our own families such that we're not necessarily tearing down the other family or maybe comparing with the other family. I think it's a personal thing. And I think it's strongly or closely tied to values. What are your values as a person? For one, personally, I think one of my own values is I don't like gossip. So I'm the kind of person that if gossip comes to my table, I tell people it's going to end there. So if you know me well, you know that if you're going to gossip to me about something, you have to be ready to be able to say it to the other person because I will tell you, okay, this thing we're gossiping about, is it possible for you to have had this discussion with the other person? What if the person doesn't know? Rather than spreading things about, because again, as parents, one of the things that we forget quickly is the things that we do, our children watch us more than they listen to the things that we're saying. So if we make our home, just like you said, a house of gossip where, can you see Mr. Lagbaja and Mrs. Lagbaja, what they are doing? Those people, they're very bad. The kids are watching us.
100%.
So even while the discussion is about Mr. A and B and Lagbaja and whoever, they are forming their opinions about who we are, making those people's businesses our own businesses. So I think it's important to have values as a family as well, to say, and that culture again of identity. Who are we? In our own family, in our own Mrs., in our own Egbalakin family, what are the things that we want to hold here? What are the things that are important to us? When we know what that looks like, then honestly, what other people do outside would not faze us. So it's important that our unit is so strong. It's important that we make a welcoming place even for ourselves, our spouses, and the children, such that they know that no matter what goes on out there, when they come home, home is a safe place for all of us to be able to function. So regardless of what other people eat in their homes, regardless of how many cars other people have in their homes, regardless of whether they live in a mansion and what we have at the moment is an apartment, we are happy, we are whole in this place. And once we put those values in place, one of our own values in my family is contentment. And we communicate that to our children. So whenever things come up, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want that, la, la, la. Sometimes it's not even because we cannot afford it, but you have a cup that can hold water. The reason why people buy cups is for water. Why do you want this $1 million cup because of something? It's still water, right? So when we can explain those things to the children and have them understand it, then we don't really care what other people do in their families. Do with their own money. It's not our business to figure out what people do with their money or how many times they choose to go eat out or what they eat or whatever. However, in our own family, based on our values, these are the things that we hold dear. So it could be something as simple as one of the reasons why we don't eat out is so that we can save up money for eating out to go on a vacation to Disney every year. And
Period.
we will help our children to understand that. So sometimes it could be something like, okay, instead of going to eat out 4 times in a month or something, can we do once? And it doesn't have to be the big places. Most important thing for us in our family is, again, our unit, what we share, and not just what we have or what we hope to have or what we hope to get. Again, it's not a competition. We're not in this world to compete with anybody. We are here to be ourselves and be a blessing to humanity and be content with whatever we have. So I think it's bringing everything back again to home and how solid that unit should be. Thank you.
That was powerful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think the last question I have is going to be on co-parenting.
Hmm.
Yeah, I see these days women are becoming more self-aware, more empowered,
Mhm.
and they are not going to take any BS from men again.
I'm telling you.
And now that women are moving on, and a typical African man will use the kids, like we are seeing. They will use the kids to discipline the woman.
Right.
Like I once asked my father, I think my mom left in 87 or so. And I asked my father why he didn't take care of me, because I know he didn't take care of quite a number of us. But I asked for myself, why didn't you take responsibility over me? And he said it. He's still alive. He might not really remember so many things. He's very old now. But he said, because I want to use it to punish your mother because I didn't send her away. I said, but if she did not leave, you would have killed her. So she left for her safety.
Right.
And you said you didn't take care of her so that you can punish her. Men are still doing the same today. But the difference today is women are becoming more empowered. So you can't discipline them by that. But they now have another way to discipline, which is in parenting. So I don't want you to have the custody of the child because you're this, because you're that. Then if eventually you have the custody of the child, it becomes a problem, what they tell the kids and all that.
Right.
How can people co-parent without war? Let me say it that way.
So you know that popular saying that says when two elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers.
True.
I think we again, it will be personal, and those are not things that we can impose on people, but maybe just giving this information will help people to sit down and self-reflect, to know what the dangers are in what they're doing. When couples separate for whatever reasons and there are children involved, I think that more than ever before, we should think about those children more than anything else. Because the process of separation at all means that that child already has at least one form of dysfunction. And that could tip the scales for a child, very negatively. And however, I think that a lot of parents, maybe they don't know, or some don't even pay attention to it, or some will just excuse it or just explain it away to say, oh, this child will be okay no matter what. While that is easy to say, I would like to say that it's not as easy for the children who are in that position. I also am a product of, where the parents are separated. And I had a bit of what you had too, where my dad, wanted to kind of use us to punish my mom, and it's a complete disaster even till date. So I feel like parents need to pay more attention to the children. Well, it's okay to co-parent peacefully, if you ask me. How? Think about those children. Whatever we are doing, the marriage did not work, the union did not work, the relationship did not work, that's fine. At least we have taken that one step to say, okay, this is not working, and then we're separated, right? However, for those children, we should team up team up as much as possible to make life normal, or help those children live as close to normalcy as possible when things go haywire. Sometimes, depending on maybe who they are, who the parents are, it could be chaotic, but it really doesn't have to be chaotic. So if I would say that if there are issues that have been left on, not dealt with, let each party deal with their personal issues themselves. But you see that whole thing of using the kids against each other, whether it is coming from the man or from the woman, some women do it as well. I will never let him or her see her father because he's something something. Those things, have a way of just affecting children way beyond what we think or how we think it is. There's a study. I made a new not a discovery, but I discovered something recently, like and it's called ACEs, the Adverse Childhood
Childhood
Experiences and
experiences.
Trauma. I'm reading on it, and it is so deep. So some of these things go deeper than we think for the children. So if only for that child's mental and emotional well-being, I feel like us, especially the grown-ups, should be able to put our differences aside and work for the betterment of that child, for him or her to be able to have at least a good life, so that in future, at least we'll be maybe saving them from some of the pain that we had to go through, even with separating from his spouse, because separating from his spouse also has its pain. So I think it's just that thing. Deal with our issues, whatever issues they are. Parents should go to therapy, talk to a therapist, unpack those feelings, unpack those emotions, unpack the pain, and deal with that, such that you can create a level playing field mentally and emotionally for your children. I think that's all I would say. But
Yeah,
co-parenting in peace is very possible. But it
very,
starts
very.
again with us.
Thank you so much. So every time we talk about the people, every time we talk about the relationship, every time we talk about marriage, we cannot but talk about the healing aspects of everyone. As an African, as human being generally, we have a lot, we've been through a lot. When I did my I think I said it recently, maybe on my birthday also. When I went through the advanced childhood experiences, I also did trauma informed training as well.
Yeah.
So in the course of time, I stumbled on. I think it's a requirement in class that we have to do the ACEs. When
Aces,
I
yeah.
did the ACEs, I think I scored like maybe 9/10 of the 10 questions.
That's deep.
And and here we are, but I didn't just get here, and I'm
Hmm.
still, because healing is a journey. So
Yeah.
because sometimes when something's just come up, I'll be like, so this one is still there. Okay, we have
Hmm.
to deal with it. And
Right.
I know there are several times I've been in therapy myself. I've been in counseling myself,
Hmm.
because we can't be uh, we can't be bleeding and be able to heal others. So we
Right.
have to be a healed healer. So
Hmm.
if homes will work, and I'm going to say this again, I've said it before. If a marriage does not work, it's because the two people in that relationship are not ready to work it.
Hmm.
If we work it, it works. If
Yes.
I don't want to work it again today, it will be over. But if
Hmm.
we want to work it, it works. Because the truth is, you won't be 80-year-old and still be behaving the way you are behaving.
I agree.
So if you've left each other when you were 30, when you were 40, you will
Hmm.
realize that you will grow older, and you will see that things will change,
Hmm.
because you just can't continue that way.
Hmm.
So it's because either of the party refuses to grow, and when we refuse to grow, it affects the children as well, and it
Exactly.
all starts from us. So
Yes.
everyone needs to be, like Aima said, everyone needs to go to therapy.
Hmm.
Parents, especially men, daddies, go to therapy,
Men,
because men don't believe there's a need for them to be in therapy. They
especially
feel they
African
can.
men.
But when something comes up, you realize that they also have their trauma.
Yes.
But women are quick to find solutions because we want to hold it together.
Hmm.
And today, women are tired of doing that, I guess. They
Hmm.
don't want to hold it together anymore. So
Hmm.
it's very necessary that both parties in the relationship come together
Hmm.
and work it, so that we can together train those children in the right way. Like we said, these children, they are learning from what we do, not
Hmm.
necessarily what we say.
Hmm.
And I just want to say thank you so much for coming today. Is there anything that I didn't ask that you would love to ask? We are still going to come back and talk about communication.
I'm ready anytime. I
Maybe
just wanted
before,
to go ahead.
I was just saying maybe before the first quarter of 2022 by God's grace.
By God's grace, I'll be here. I'm ready anytime because these are conversations that we need to have. And again, parents, couples, just like Tosin said, if we're ready to work it, it will work. Um, there's a lot going on in the world today. There's a lot, it's so dark out there in the world. That's how I define it. But we can be the light. And the fact that, in your marriage or your relationship, the fact that the other person is not on board is not doesn't mean that it's the end, right? But when one party is willing to work on it, then it will work. And hopefully what we advocate for is that when one party starts to make put the effort in and then take the steps, the other person will catch on. It may take time, but it will definitely happen. Remember that we're all coming from different walks of life, and we have said one is not necessarily better than the other. It may be different but not better. I pray and I hope that we all finish strong, whether as couples or as parents, and I know that by God's grace we will get there. If for any reason you want to talk, you want to unpack, you just need somebody to hold your hands through your marriage, through your parenting, please reach out to Tosin, reach out to me. We'll make out time. We have very busy lives, with school and a lot on our plates, but we'll make time for another person who's willing to walk this journey and make it work. And I believe that by God's grace, we'll all finish strong in Jesus'
Amen. Thank
name.
you so much, Aima.
Thank you, Pastor.
How can people get you?
So I'm Aima Egbalakin on Facebook. On Instagram, my hashtag is Family Life Pro. I haven't done a lot on there recently, but I'm hoping that as the year rolls to an end and in the new year, I'll do more. But that's why I do most of my family life teachings and posts and all that. But you can reach me, shoot me an email, shoot me a DM, I will respond, like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you want to contact me through Tosi as well, you're welcome to.
Yes, I'll be here. One of the things I tell people during the school, especially the research work and all that, no time. So what I did was when I post on YouTube, I say, "Hey, Instagram people, go to YouTube because
Yeah,
there's no time."
yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's it's. I mean, school first semester was intense, like really intense. Yeah.
Fall, I think fall generally is always like that. I don't know why.
Yeah, and I
Fall
think
is always crazy.
I did the 15 credit hours, which was everything, six
Oh
courses.
my
And I was
God.
like, okay, that was
That's
not
a
a good idea.
lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. So, but I'm wiser now. So I actually
Mm,
switched to the 3-year program versus two. So I can
correct.
pace myself and I can still, push out content to people who need it and then be able to
Correct.
do school and just be
Correct.
more sane generally.
Yes. Correct. Correct. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me,
So
Tosi.
much. I
Yeah,
appreciate you. To our
my
viewers,
pleasure.
thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate my guests. Thank you. Thank you. Help me to say thank you to your children and your husband for allowing you to be here today. And to our viewers, I just want to say thank you for coming again. Those who will be watching the replay, those who will be watching when I premiere, I just want to say thank you. And remember what I keep saying, keep becoming a better you because things work when we work it. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Aima. I appreciate you.
It's
Thank
my
you.
pleasure. Bye bye now.